Great to see a lot of familiar names. Thank you so much for being here. All right, great. Well, we're excited to tell you about our upcoming programs, as well as talk to you about how to sign up on sam.gov, a government website that you may need if you are funded through federal funding sources. So everybody loves to talk about grants. So thank you for joining us. We'll also be joined today with two producers who can help you understand why you might want to sign up for this. It's called a Unique Entity Identifier Code from the US government. And as I mentioned, we are recording this session, and I will email that link to everybody who registered. So if we're ready, let's get going. All right, so for today's agenda, we want to talk to you about something called Business Builder Awards. We want to share more about these unique identifiers and why you might need one. We have Dan and Ajay here with lessons from the field, and then I'll give you some more tips on other things that you might need to think about to prepare your business for grant funding. We're going to go around the room and introduce ourselves. I'll start. I'm Jamie Rahrig. I'm with the Michigan State University Center for Regional Food Systems and the Product Center. And I've been in this role for about 6 years. And I'm happy to have you all join us today to learn about our new program called the Great Lakes Midwest Regional Food Business Center. And I'll pass it on to Dan.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm Dan Cornelius. I have a farm, Uwela Farm, I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then I work for the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the Great Lakes Indigenous Law Center in the UW Law School, as well as the College of Ag and Life Sciences, and partner and work very closely with the Menominee Indian Tribe of Wisconsin and Great Lakes Indian Tribal Food Coalition, including to help to coordinate tribal outreach for the Regional Food Business Center. And I'm a member of the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin.
Thanks, Dan. Ajay, would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thank you, Jamie. Peace and blessings, everyone. My name is Ajay Elliott. I am the founder and head farmer of Working Roots. We're an urban community farm in the Nolan neighborhood of Detroit. I'm also the co-founder of the Detroit Farmer Collective, which is a collective of 5 women-owned farms that are creating hubs for other urban farmers and gardeners all throughout the city of Detroit.
Okay, great, thanks. And I'll pass it on to Julie, who will talk us through some more information about our program.
Hello, everybody. I'm Julie Jesmer, and I am brand new to the Great Lakes Midwest Regional Food Business Centers. I am the Business Builder Award Grant Manager, and I will be speaking a little bit more about that later on. I am on my way up to Michigan right now. I'm originally from Colorado and have spent the last 6 years in Washington State, so I'm traveling across the country to join you all, and I will talk more about what the Business Builder Awards look like after Jamie talks about the Regional Food Business Center.
Thanks, Julie. Just a little bit of background. A couple of years back, we started to hear some rumors that the United States Department of Agriculture was going to offer and create these food business centers across the country. We tried to keep our eye and ear to the ground and try to figure out what was coming up. And we later had a proposal, and we received the award to coordinate what is called a Regional Food Business Center. They were established to drive economic opportunities across their region, creating a more diversified and resilient food system. And they're specifically to create opportunities for focused region-specific solutions to address food system problems and come up with solutions. They are focused on driving investment impact and supporting other USDA programs, and we will strongly collaborate with the USDA to ensure that we're offering these appropriate support and services across the region. There are 12 centers across the country, and you can see in the light blue, that is the Great Lakes Midwest region that we're representing today. If you have friends and colleagues in other states, you can note this map or easily look it up online to find the center that can support them in their region. So at Michigan State Center for Regional Food Systems, where Julie and I are working, we have been tasked to coordinate this center across 4 states: Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. And out of these programs, we will offer business assistance throughout the 4 states, as well as this grant program that Julie is going to talk about.
Thank you, Jamie. Now, Jamie talked about how there is the Business Builder Grant Awards within the Great Lakes Midwest Regional Food Business Center. Some of our funding that we received from the USDA will go toward what's called technical assistance, and some of it will go to business builder grants. Jamie is coordinating the technical assistance side. I am coordinating the grants. We are starting out the business builder grants. I want all of you to be able to get ready to apply for these business builder grants. Now, how can you be ready for that? Well, join these webinars. This webinar will hopefully be the first in a series of ways to get started in order to be ready to fill out that application and to know what you need to know. Each state also has a state-level network partner. So you can connect with your Great Lakes Midwest Regional Food Business Center network partner. That would be a great person to connect with in order to kind of understand a little bit more in depth. The other thing that you might want to think through is, what is the stage of your food business? Next slide, Jamie. So part of this is an alphabet soup. So I'm going to go through some of what these letters mean. Okay, I'm going to start at the very bottom. GLM RFBC, that's the Great Lakes Midwest Regional Food Business Centers. And that is the where we have started all of this program and receiving funding from the USDA. AMS at USDA. One section of the USDA is the Agricultural Marketing Service. Now, it's important that you understand that because we're through AMS, all of the business builder grants have to be related to how am I going to market my business. It's not strictly on marketing, but it doesn't cover production. So if you're a farm business, you need to, and you want to apply for assistance through the business builder grants, think through, okay, what things do I need in order to make my business grow, make it more accessible? Just start thinking through those things. So I talked about the EIN before. That's the Entity Identification Number. That's what you get through your incorporation process. However you've done it, if you're a sole proprietorship, if you're an LLC, each one of those will receive an entity identification number. That is required in order to have a specific entity receive the funds. The next is the UEI. That means a unique entity identification number. And that is the number that you need in order to receive federal funds. Now, these funds are from the federal government through Michigan State University. So you need to be able to receive federal funds, and it will be managed through Michigan State as the fiscal agent. So how do you do that? Well, that's why you're all here today. You're going to be learning what sam.gov requires. Sam.gov is the website that you would go through to get your UEI. And there's a very long process to register for the full sam.gov, but to get a UEI, you only need to do part of that registration process. And Ajay and Dan will go through that later. The other section is the BBA. Those are the Business Builder Awards. That's approximately half of the funding from for the Great Lakes Midwest Regional Food Business Center. And then the other half of the funding is under TA, and that would be the technical assistance. So think through all of this. I want in the application, we're looking for you to tell us about you, who you are as an organization. Also think through what stage is your business development. Have you incorporated yet? Are you a new and beginning farmer? Are you thinking about expansion? Are you just what stage? And then do you have a UEI and do you have an EIN? And those things will help you understand what happens next. And then if you have any questions, you can always email myself or Jamie. And also we have the Q&A box open if you have any questions for us at this point. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks for giving us that great overview. And coming up, we're going to dig a little bit deeper. But before we do, I want to launch a couple polls to see what, if you do have this UEI, again, a unique entity identification, or an employer identification number, which is the EIN. And that's something you get for filing taxes and things. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit here. All right, it looks like a lot of people have already gotten their UEI, and most people have an EIN. That's terrific. Couple more seconds here. Looks like it's still adjusting. Okay, thanks everyone. You are experts on using Zoom poll by now, after all these years. That is wonderful. All right, so this is what we've got. Most people said that they do have an EIN already, which means your business is already licensed entity, and maybe half-ish have this UEI, and some people, as I imagined, don't know what the UEI is, which is totally acceptable. We're all learning right with you. Trust me. Okay, well, great. Thank you for doing that with us. All right. And awesome. We have some folks putting in the question and answer box that the UEI was easy to get. And one person asks, what is the source of the federal funds? Julie, do you want to answer that?
Sure, I'll take that. The funds came through the USDA, through the Agricultural Marketing Service, and essentially it's some post-COVID funding. What happened was the federal government realized, wow, our food businesses and our didn't have a lot of capacity to deal with some crisis situations. We all know what happened during COVID, and this was a way for the federal government to say, hey, wait a minute, let's kind of shore up our food businesses so that we can focus a little bit more on strengthening the local food system. So that was the original outlay of these funds. And so it is through the USDA, but the section of the USDA called the Agricultural Marketing Service. Does that answer your question?
So if you have heard of LAMP grants, or the local food promotion grant, or the regional food system partnership grant, those are all from that same division of USDA, the Agriculture Marketing Services Division.
Julie, I do not have the answer to that, but I will find out. And if you send me your email address, I can get that for you as far as your matching funds.
And yes, and we're going to get there. The UEI did replace the DUNS number. You're absolutely right, Jamal. All right, and I'm going to keep going and hopefully answer some more of your questions coming up. All right, so just broad overview. What is this UEI? It's a 12-digit number that's assigned to your business. Again, it is, just like Jamal said, it is a newer version of what used to be called the DUNS number. It's free to obtain, which is really important, and I think we're going to say it at least 3 times during the time we're together today, because there are a lot of scams out there of people who will gladly take your money in order to complete the form for you. But you can do it, and that's why we're here today, to give you a little bit of tips and helps and tricks to be able to do it yourself. It's this number that is assigned by sam.gov. And like we're saying, it is required to get some grants from the US government sources. So if you're in Michigan, Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development just closed the Resilient Food System Infrastructure Grant. And if awarded, applicants will be required to get this UEI. The same thing goes for these Business Builder Awards. If you are a recipient of these awards, you will be required to obtain the UEI also. We're still working out all the details on when you'd have to have the UEI for the application for the Great Lakes Midwest Business Builder Awards, but we can share more of that information once we have it all figured out. But I also want to say what a UEI isn't. So it is not a guarantee just because you sign up on sam.gov for the UEI that you will receive a grant. That is not what it is. And it's also not the same as registering on sam.gov. There's 2 different processes that you pick when you go on the website. Registering means that you are going to apply to be a contractor with them. Like maybe you want to supply food for the Department of Defense, for example. Or so it goes into more detail when you register, whereas the UEI is a much more simple process, hopefully. But you will have to have a good number of things in front of you. And this is why we started to ask questions about EINs and all these other acronyms, because before you can even go through the process, you have to make sure that you have a legal business name. So I tried and put my information in there just as a person, and it came to the point where I needed to search for my business name, which I don't have. So I couldn't get any further. So you have to have this legal entity licensed in your state with your regulatory group. And I do have some information for folks across the 4 states that we're working with on where you go if you haven't done this part yet. You also have to have that EIN number, the employer identification number. You'll need your start date and date of incorporation, tax records, and then the last thing is this NACE code, which stands for North American Industry Classification System, which really is just a way for the US government to identify a type of business. So a specific farm has a different code than a salsa maker. And I can explain more about that on these next slides. So when I searched just one idea, I looked up tomato farming. I know a lot of the farmers that I work with grow tomatoes, and 2 numbers came up. One that is specific for growing in the field and another one that's specific for growing undercover. So it's a pretty easy system to use. If you grow more than just tomatoes, which most people do, you can see below on the screen, hopefully it's big enough, that there is other vegetable growing. So you can play around with that NACE code and see what you can find that makes the most sense for your business. The other one I looked up was salsa. Salsas. And so there's one specific for fruit and vegetable canning, one really specific just for salsas. So maybe you're a tomato grower that also makes salsas. Now you have two NACE codes that resonate with your business. And I'm just going to pause for some questions to make sure we got them. Sounds good. All right. Great. Thank you for everybody's comments. I so appreciate that. We can only learn from best learn from each other. All right, from here, I'm going to turn it over to Dan. Dan has walked through this process himself and wanted to give some good tips. Dan, are you available? Are you still able to?
Thank you, Jamie.
Great.
I am, sorry. Just getting off the mute here. Yeah, so I just wanted to give a bit of perspective of my experience of getting the UEI. I have a farm I mentioned at the beginning, Yuela Farms. It is I grow indigenous corn or specialty corn. I raise some animals. If you look close at this picture here, you see a cow in the way background. Harvest wild rice, and so I had initially incorporated my business as an LLC and got my IEN back in 2020. I had done that incorporation, and that was all pretty easy. I was told by USDA that I needed to have the UEI. I had applied for some pandemic safety response funding, and it was not at that point an easy process. And I think some of it is because that was right when they were rolling this out, and there was a lot of people that were applying, and it was kind of difficult because I was submitting the information that they were requesting, and then they would say it wasn't what they needed, and so it was kind of difficult, but then I just kept doing it, and eventually it worked. I've had to help a couple other people more recently get one, and it seems like the process is much improved now. I think that there's not as many people who are applying, and so it's yeah, it shouldn't be too hard, but and it looked like most folks who had done the poll already have the IEN, and so I won't spend, I guess, as much time talking about that right now. But that is really the first step, is doing that basic incorporation and then applying for that employer identification number. And my experience on that was pretty much almost automated to get the EIN. There was a couple more steps to be able to get the unique identification number.
That's great. You want me to move forward on the slides?
Yeah.
We'll get a better picture of the farm.
So yeah, just a little more background though on my farm. So here's an aerial of one angle on it. I also lease some land, but just a little bit more context of just real quick. My work with the tribes. I spent over a decade working for the Intertribal Agriculture Council, and then for the past few years have worked for the University of Wisconsin. When the pandemic hit, one of the big things that we did was we launched a tribal elder food box program, and have worked really closely with USDA on the LFPA, Local Food Purchase Assistance Program. And what we're trying to do with our tribal producers is essentially guarantee a market at a fair price for food that's feeding the community. And, that maybe could be some topics for future trainings, but I'm excited for these business builder awards, of just being able to have another source of funding that can go and support our small food businesses across the region, across the country. And myself, I also am a producer for Tribal Elder Food Box and the LFPA, and just can say of that ability to be able to produce food that goes and, you know, feeds the community, it just makes things a lot easier to be able to do a little bit larger sales, know at the beginning of the season what, you know, what my contract, what I'm producing is. So again, hopefully we'll be able to have some future trainings. I'd love to hear from other folks too on the line, just of you know, what different marketing strategies do you have? But yeah, this picture of my farm. I think Jamie, do you have one more slide?
Yep.
And so I had mentioned the employer identification number. Again, it seemed like most folks on already have this, but just wanted to show, you know, this is what that determination letter, this is what the letter of giving you your IEN looks like. The UEI was not quite, you know, it was more of just a digital thing versus the letter, from what I can recall of getting that UEI. But yeah, I'm pretty sure, Jamie, if people do need help, you know, we do have, through Regional Food Business Center, we'll be able to have some capacity to be able to give at least some basics if people need help with this UEI. But again, good news is just a few weeks ago was helping someone, and they were able to get the UEI on the very same day that they started the application process, which was not my experience a couple of years ago. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so much, Dan. And you got a miigwech in the Q&A box too. You probably can't see. So, all right. Thanks so much, Dan and Julie both. Ajay, are you ready? And I'll share your slides too.
Yes, Jamie, I am ready.
Thank you.
No problem. Again, peace and blessings, everybody. Thank you for showing up. So I'm going to, well, Jamie is sharing my slides that I have used in a previous lecture about applying for grants and partnerships and things like that. At the bottom is my contact information. If at any point you have any questions or you would like to reach out further, I'm an email away, so feel free. Or if you're in the area, you can always stop by our urban farm if you're interested. You can go to the next slide, Jamie. All right. So most of you have already registered your entities, as Dan mentioned before, as well as Julie. You will need an EIN number for some of the USDA grants that you apply for. SAM.gov will definitely be your friend in making sure that you're registered for the USDA grants. Is something that it's like partnered with applying for the USDA grants. It's for identity purposes and just to make sure, you know, to make sure things are matching up across the board. And so you will need to complete registration to, you know, get an account registered to do that. And at that point, you know, you'll be applying for the UEI. And once, you know, once you'll receive your UEI, and then once, you know, your verification is complete, like it's kind of a, you know, like two-step process. You know, you'll do one and then you'll be able to do the other. My experience, similar to Dan, I didn't receive it in one day. It was actually a couple of weeks. I'm not sure how long Dan's process was, but mine was a couple of weeks. And the reason being for that is because I have a few businesses. And so in verifying my identity and my business, the other businesses were listed as well. And so, you know, they just kind of make sure that the business that you are trying to register for this UEI number in SAMS.gov, like everything is matching across the board. If you already have a SAMS.gov account, that's great. If it's expired, you should have received an email that, you know, your account was going to expire. And if you didn't reactivate it at that time, it's not an issue. You can always go back and reactivate. And then the number for SAM.gov is right underneath reactivate. So, you know, there you can reach out to them by customer service or by email. They're very helpful. I got locked out of my account, and so they're super helpful in that way of making sure that you're able to, you know, get reactivated, or if you have any type of problem with not understanding any of the verbiage or the steps to do to get your account, you can always reach out and their customer service will help. As Jamie mentioned, getting an NAICS code is pretty important. It categorizes, you know, what type of farm that you have, and you know, all of these things go together, you know, so that you get placed in the right category for, you know, your farm for the UEI number. And then you also grants.gov at that for the USDA grants. Jeremy, do you know if folks would need to have a grants.gov account to apply for the okay, I see Julie shaking her head, yes. So yes, you will need to have a grants.gov account as well. I definitely needed to do that. My farm, as well as the Detroit Farmer Collective, we applied for the increasing land access and marketing grant, and we needed to have that. So it is another account that you have to create. I had some trouble with that too. But those folks are great as well in helping you get your, you know, account situated. Also, part of the reason why I had trouble is because getting the grants.gov account was one of the last things I did. I didn't know until I was like up against the clock that I needed the grants.gov account. And so their system was like over flooded with folks trying to get grants.gov accounts, specifically for the grants that were due, you know, during the time I was applying for the grant. So my best advice would be to not wait until you know that you're going to apply for a grant. If you have any small inkling or thought that you may apply for USDA grants or any type of government grant, whether it's a local grant that's facilitated through the USDA, I would go ahead and apply for grants.gov, or register for grants.gov, so that you have that out of the way, and you're not up against the clock and waiting, you know, to get approved at the last minute. Next slide, please. Jamie, did you want me to talk about this? The partnerships?
I think we can skip this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I took out that other slide, but I did not take this one out.
Okay.
Just in case.
You can skip this one as well.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm sorry, go back one.
Go back one.
Yes, I apologize. Okay, yeah, skip this one. This one goes with the talking about partnerships. But you know, I will mention something about that just a little bit. So the slide that I had her skip was just talking about partnerships. And so a lot of grants that you may want to apply for with the USDA agricultural grants, they're asking for partnerships. for you to partner with other farms or other producers. And so, I would my best advice would be to choose other farmers or agricultural businesses or organizations that are aligned with what you are trying to accomplish. Try not to forfeit your goals just to receive the funds, because there are always other funds, there are always other opportunities for you to, have access to funds. And sometimes in for lack of better words, chasing grant dollars, a person can compromise their goals and visions just to, receive those dollars. And so, just choose wisely what you want to apply for, so that you don't have to compromise what your goals are. So that's all. Next slide. Next slide. So if you take anything away from what I'm saying, just, try to be as much prepared as much as possible. The poll results show that, most of you are, already have UEIs. And so that's like half of the battle right there. So pat yourself on the back. Congratulations to you for, being proactive and doing that. And yeah, just have backup options. And choosing those partnerships when you apply for these grants. Also, apply for as many as you can. When I started applying for grants, some folks were like, oh, well, just kind of focus on one. And listen, apply for as many grants as you can that apply to, what your goals are. Because you may or you may not get them. And so you don't want to focus so much just on one grant, and then you have all these other grants that you could possibly get that, you're passing up the opportunity for. I'm not saying, just apply for everything, but also if you have the capacity to, why not? There are funds out there to help you accomplish your goals and aspirations and dreams. And so apply for them. And the worst thing that, they can say is no. So just find support to help you apply for these grants. It can be a bit cumbersome. Sometimes there's language that, folks are using that you may not understand. Just align yourself with support. Jamie is a great resource. And she knows a bunch of folks that are great resources as well. So if you have any problems, like, don't feel intimidated. Just ask someone, because, what you don't know, someone else knows.
That's right. Thank you so much. I do have a question that you might be able to answer too. When you were talking about partnerships, are you talking about like a legal partnership, or just partners who help each other, and like farm businesses who help each other?
I apologize for not being clear on that. What I meant was, well, I guess what I was talking about was partnering for the sake of grants. And so in turn, so I'll use my project as an example. I am the project coordinator for the Increase in Land Access and Capital Marketing grant that I received. So in that project, I'm working with 4 other farms, as well as a community nonprofit that is helping other farmers purchase, helping urban farmers purchase land here in the city of Detroit. And so it ends up being a legal partnership, because we do have to have working agreements. Sorry, just one second. Okay, let me finish up my meeting, okay? Okay, thank you, bye. I'm sorry, you guys. My 4-year-old, she wants to get on Zoom so bad. Like she sees faces and she's like, I want to say hi.
You know she's the next business person. You know.
Yeah. Hopefully she'll take over my farm. But yeah, so those partnerships end up becoming legal partnerships because you have to have working agreements for the sake of the grants. And so initially you may be seeking out partners that can help you access the funds. So for another example, we are working with the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. So their goal is to put land in the hands of Black and brown farmers. That's what they do. I don't do that. I farm. However, I give other resources, equipment and soil and things like that to other farmers that are in my area. And so for the sake of the grant, we had we wanted to cover 2 different areas. And so we formed a partnership, for this grant where folks will be able to get land and still have access to the resource hubs. So those kind of working partnerships to fulfill a goal is what I was referring to. So yes, it is, a partnership of helping each other out, but it does in turn, once you get the grant, you do have to have a working agreement with those partners. So I hope that makes sense with how I explained it.
That does make sense. And thank you so much. And for these business builder awards that we're talking about, I don't know if you're following along in the Q&A or not, or if you're later watching this recording, I'll just read it out that formal partnerships are not going to be required for the business builder grant applications. But it will be interesting to know about community engagement and local markets and how you do support local food or regional food throughout your business too. Okay, Ajay, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add, or I'm going to move on forward?
No, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I'm so glad you were able to join us.
Oh, no problem. Thank you guys for having me.
And you got lots of love in the reactions I saw too.
Oh, thank you.
All right, let's talk about specifically if you have not registered your business. I want to share a little bit more. There are different types of legal businesses that you can start. For example, an LLC or a sole proprietorship. So I just want to share a little bit more about this and to make sure that you start this process early. As Dan and Ajay mentioned, that it could take some time, although people who have been registering recently or receiving their UEI recently have been getting it pretty fast. But just to get these processes started, don't wait for grant applications to open to try to help yourself be best prepared. So LLCs, in my experience, and I am not an attorney, I do want to say that, but in my experience working with food and farm businesses have been the preferred entity structure that I've seen. Their reason why is because a person then cannot be personally held liable for the company's liabilities, which is important with food safety. An LLC is a for-profit entity. Then there's sole proprietorships, which are pretty popular too. However, the LLC does offer more of that protection around liability than a sole proprietorship. Again, I'm not an attorney, but if you do want to learn more and you are considering one or the other and aren't sure which way to go, you may want to consult with an attorney. There's also something called a B Corp. And a B Corp is a business that is also for profit, but it's been certified by the certifying agency that says that you are doing good for the social environment and the environment. And these are important in your business model. You can still make those important in your business model. Julie was talking about values that a business may hold earlier. They can still be important and you can still have an LLC or a sole proprietorship. Then there's nonprofits. Nonprofits are tax exempt. You receive a tax exempt code under IRS. And these organizations are usually private foundations, educational organizations, public charities, that sort of thing. Some farms and food businesses do education on top of it. However, they are still an LLC, or maybe they later add a nonprofit. There are grants that are only available for profit, and there's grants that are only available for nonprofit. So be really cautious in which one that you decide is best for your business. And then the last one I included, and there's a lot more other kinds of entities that you could look at, is something called a cooperative. And that's a member-owned organization. So you might be familiar, pardon me, with food cooperatives. There's also farmer cooperatives, there's breastfeeding cooperatives, there's dairy cooperatives, lots of vegetable cooperatives or fruit cooperatives. And those are democratically controlled by their member owners. So there isn't just one owner like in an LLC or a sole proprietorship. And that's all I'm going to say for today, but there is lots more online that you can read too. And if you have any specific questions, you're welcome to email me. But again, you may need to consult with a lawyer if you have lots of questions I might not be able to answer. All right. And depending on which state, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Jamie, I just wanted to say so much of this too is, you know, a lawyer, but also an accountant. Because so much of what you're talking about with these business entities, I mean, and there's S corps too, it really is taxes. And it comes, you know, these are business entities governed by IRS tax code. And I know it's not probably my favorite thing to think about is taxes, but how you structure business entities, it not only is eligibility for grants, but it's how you're taxed. And maybe that could be another opportunity for some future training, but it is really depending on what you're trying to do. And yeah, not just the lawyers, but the accountants really can help just to think about how to set this up in the way that really maximizes what you're getting back, minimizes, you know, what you have to
some information from the Q&A, more about the grants. The grants will be available with more information soon. We are still building the application now, so some of the questions that you're asking in the chat, we can't quite answer yet, and we're still figuring that out with our partners at the USDA. I was also saying that we will be offering more education offerings like this, like Dan had mentioned, talking about taxes, that will help you build your business and grow and scale and get more local and regionally produced products into the market. All right, so I was mentioning too that, and I don't know if I was muted for this, that each state has its own regulatory group. And Julie put some links in the chat. Hopefully you can grab those for your state if you have not yet registered your business as an entity in your state. They're called different things in different states, and they all have great resources. And on their website, like the Indiana InBiz page has lots of things about starting your business plan and getting your business started. Lots of great information there. And again, the links are in the chat. All right, and back to this EIN. So the employer identification number, just briefly, because I think we've talked about it a lot. It is provided to you by the IRS. There's no cost. So again, watch out for scams that ask you to have someone pay somebody to get it for you. You can do this on your own, and it does help you when you go to file your business taxes. So in summary, 3 things to register your business. First, to get this UEI, first you have to register your business in your state. Second, you have to get that EIN. And then third, go to get that UEI on the sam.gov. So this will help you, again, if you're awarded funding from a federal source like the USDA, be able to receive those dollars. And it can be a good way to get a head start on those grant applications by getting some of this in line now. All right,
Jamie, I'm gonna I'm going to go ahead and share out. We want to make sure that everybody understands that the Business Builder Awards will be coming through in different phases, and there'll be different audiences for each of the phases. And the first phase is likely to have a very specific audience, but that eligibility information will be coming soon, and to stay tuned.
Thank you. And all right, make sure I'm not muted now. I have too many screens open here. All right, so we want to leave some time for some questions too. We're scheduled to end in about 5-ish minutes. We do have a quick 5-question survey that we would love you to take, and we can put that link in the chat too if we haven't yet. Looks like we have, or you can take a picture of the QR code on the screen now in order to complete that 5-question survey for us. We really appreciate it, and it'll help us guide where we're going and the types of assistance that we can offer as we move forward. And I'm going to leave that up now and keep working on some questions. I see some folks did raise their hands and wondered if they wanted to be allowed to talk. So Roseanne Bills, I'm gonna give you permission to talk if you have a question.
I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm gonna lower my hand. I didn't realize I had it. I joined late, but I mentioned, or I heard you say you were gonna put links in the chat. And I'm looking through the chat and I don't see the links there.
Okay, I think they were dropped so you can only see them by the hosts and panelists. So Julie, do you have the ability to change it so you send it to everyone? Drop those links in there. I would appreciate it. Thank you for letting us know, Roseanne.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we've also got Samuel England who is interested in asking a question or talking. Hi, Samuel.
Hello. Actually, I was just trying to get you to unmute yourself, so my apologies on that. But great information, and we really appreciate all you guys are doing, especially Dan and RJ.
Thank you. I wondered why we were getting all of these questions and hands up all at the same time, and that was why. Okay, thanks so much, Samuel. All right, great. It looks like we're getting that information in the chat now. Yes, thank you, Julie. Thank you. All right, I'm just going back to any other questions. Lots of questions around who is going to be eligible. We met with our group from across the 4 states, and people want to support businesses from farm to fork. So if you're a food hub or a grocery retailer and you're working we will have priority places that we will share out in the upcoming months so that you can see if you're located or you serve people in a priority community. We'll share that with you. But yeah, if you're processing and distributing and storing and growing, this is a program for you. We want to create a more resilient food system and make this a transformative program and change the food system across the 4 states. We have lots of fun, exciting things coming up and can't wait to share more information with you. All right. And there's lots of great resources people are talking about in the chat too. People that can help you with business planning, like the Small Business Development Centers. Also SCORE, which is a group of retired executives who volunteer. They're incredible partners. So if you are looking for someone to help you, I also see a question if tribal nations are allowed to apply. Absolutely. We're looking for tribal producers and businesses across the 4 states to apply. Dan mentioned he's from with the Oneida, and we also have the Menominee Tribe Department of Agriculture and Food Systems as a partner in this work too. We would be thrilled to have your involvement.
Yeah, I'm a member of the nation, Oneida Nation. I don't work for, well, actually, technically, I kind of do work for the tribe. I'm an appellate judge, but with this, I don't represent the tribe itself. But yeah, I just would say for the 4 states and tribes within those states too, just to clarify, tribes and tribal businesses and producers.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. All right. Ajay, Julie, Dan, anything else we should address?
I wanted to point out that I put in the chat both the link to the GLM RFBC as well as the regional partners, so are the network partners. And so if you want contact information for the network partners, go ahead and click the link in the chat.
That's great. All right, well, please follow along with us, and we will be rolling out more information about the Great Lakes Midwest Regional Food Business Center over time, and really appreciate you connecting with us today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for attending.